Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Okay, I need everyone to take a deep breath right now because what we are about to get into today is something that I have genuinely been sitting with for days. I watched this interview, I took notes, I rewatched it, I took more notes, I called my friend who was also in army at 11 o'clock at night just to process it out loud, and I am still not fully done processing. Because what Jungkook said, what he revealed, what he admitted, what he let slip in the most quiet and honest and completely unguarded way in this Vogue exclusive in Tokyo, is something that changes the way I think about BTS 2026. Not in a scary way. Not in a sad way. In a way that is actually more exciting and more beautiful than anything I was prepared for. But we need to talk about it. All of it. Every single word. So if you are new here, please subscribe right now because this is exactly the kind of deep, emotional, thorough BTS content that we do on this channel. And if you are a regular, hi, I love you, let's go. Let me start by giving you the full context of what we are dealing with, because context is everything when it comes to BTS and especially when it comes to a moment like this. The Vogue interview happened in Tokyo. Jungkook was there for the launch of his 2026 CKJK Calvin Klein collaboration, his first major individual fashion collaboration of this kind, and Vogue caught up with him for a special edition of their In the Bag series. Now if you have never watched an In the Bag interview before, the format is simple but brilliant. A celebrity is given a bag of curated items, usually connected to a specific theme or location, and they react to each item while answering questions in between. It sounds low stakes. It sounds like a fun, light interview. And it is, on the surface. But in the right hands, with the right subject, it becomes something far more revealing than a traditional sit-down interview ever could. Because when someone is distracted by snacks and novelty items and the genuine delight of trying something new, their guard comes down. And when Jungkook's guard comes down, what you get is the most honest, most real, most unfiltered version of him. And that is exactly what we got in this Vogue interview. And what we got, once you look past the charm and the beauty and the creme brulee and the ASMR moments that went viral, what we got underneath all of that was a confession. A quiet, almost casual confession that BTS 2026 is not going to be what any of us thought it was going to be. And I mean that in the most extraordinary possible way. So let me walk you through everything. Let me walk you through the interview, the context, the history, and the specific moments that made me realize we are standing at the beginning of something genuinely unprecedented in music history. Because that is what this is. And I do not think enough people are talking about it with the seriousness and the depth that it deserves. The first thing I want to establish is where Jungkook is right now as a person, as an artist, and as a member of BTS, because those three things are now more distinct from each other than they have ever been, and that distinction is actually the most important thing to understand about BTS 2026. For the majority of BTS's career, those three identities were almost completely fused. Being Jungkook the person, Jungkook the artist, and Jungkook the BTS member were essentially the same thing. He debuted as a teenager. He grew up inside the group. His personal development, his artistic development, and his development as part of a collective all happened simultaneously, in the same environment, surrounded by the same 6 people, shaped by the same experiences. He never really had the chance or arguably the need to figure out where one identity ended and another began. And then came the hiatus. And the solo work. And the military service. And for the first time in his adult life, Jungkook had to exist in each of those identities separately. He had to be Jungkook the person without the constant presence of the members. He had to be Jungkook the artist without the collaborative creative structure of BTS. He had to figure out who he was when stripped of the context that had defined him since he was a teenager. And what the Vogue interview shows us, what it reveals in the most quiet and undramatic way, is that he did figure it out. He found himself. He met himself, clearly and honestly, and he liked what he found. And that changes everything about what BTS 2026 is going to be. Now let me get into the specific content of the interview, because this is where things get really interesting. The interview opens with Jungkook in this beautiful, minimal Tokyo room, dressed in all black because Jungkook in all black is just a fact of life at this point, sitting across from a box of Japanese treats and snacks. And immediately you can feel something different about him. I know that sounds like something a fan would say, oh, he just seemed different, trust me, but I want to try to be more specific than that because I think the difference is real and I think it is describable. The Jungkook in this interview is settled. That is the word I keep coming back to. Settled. Not in a boring way. Not in a way that has dimmed any of his spark or spontaneity. If anything, the spontaneity is more present than ever, more free, less effortful. But there is a groundedness underneath it that was still forming in earlier interviews. A sense that he is not reaching for anything. Not trying to prove anything. Not performing comfort, just actually comfortable. In himself, in his body, in the room, in the conversation. And that settledness is the product of everything he has been through since the hiatus began. The solo work, the military service, the time alone with himself that he had never really had before. He has done the work, internally, of becoming a fully formed individual. And you can see it in every single frame of this interview. One of the earliest moments that caught my attention is when Jungkook tries creme brulee from a Japanese convenience store for what appears to be the first time. And his reaction, I want you to really think about this reaction because I think it tells you something important. He picks it up, he reads the packaging, he takes a bite, and his whole face changes. There is this moment of genuine surprise, then concentration as he processes the flavor, then delight, then this small private smile that he almost immediately tries to contain but cannot quite manage. And the reason I find this significant is not because of the creme brulee. It is because of what that reaction reveals about how present he is. He is not half in this interview and half somewhere else. He is completely, entirely, 100% in this moment. Tasting this food. Experiencing this thing. Letting it be what it is without filtering it through any kind of performance lens. That presence, that quality of being genuinely, fully here, is something that I think has deepened significantly in Jungkook since the hiatus. And it matters enormously for what BTS 2026 is going to look like, because that same quality of presence is going to be in the music, in the performances, in everything. Then there is the ASMR moment, which went massively viral and for obvious reasons, but I want to talk about it from a slightly different angle than most people have. Yes, it is 30 seconds of Jungkook providing a sensory experience through the sounds of him tasting food and his reactions, and yes, it is genuinely one of the most compelling 30 seconds of content I have seen in a long time. But what I find interesting about it is what it demonstrates about his understanding of intimacy and connection. Jungkook has always had this quality, this ability to make you feel like he is performing specifically for you, like there is a direct line between him and whoever is watching. But in earlier years, that quality was something he seemed to channel consciously, something he turned on for performances or specific moments. In this Vogue interview, it is just on. Always. Effortlessly. He is not trying to create intimacy with the viewer. He just is intimate. Because he is fully present, and full presence is inherently intimate. And that is new. Or rather, it is not new, it was always there underneath, but it is now the default setting rather than something he has to reach for. And then comes the moment that I have been building toward this whole time. The moment that made me pause the video and sit in silence for about 90 seconds before re-watching it. The moment where Vogue asks Jungkook about BTS and he says something so simple and so honest that it took me several listens to fully understand what he was actually saying. He grounds his answer in time first. Since I finished my service. That temporal anchor is deliberate, even if it is unconscious. He is not speaking generally. He is not speaking about the future or the past or the abstract concept of BTS. He is speaking about a specific transition, the before and after of his military service, and placing himself firmly on the after side. He is saying, I am someone who has been through something. I am speaking from the other side of an experience that changed me. And from that place, he says, I really take care of it. I really take care of it. 5 words. But let me tell you what those 5 words actually contain, because I think they contain a universe. He is not saying he is excited about it. He is not saying he cannot wait. He is not giving you the standard reunion language about how great it is going to be and how much he has missed everyone and how the fans mean everything to him. All of that is true and he probably believes all of it. But that is not what he says. What he says is that he takes care of it. actively, intentionally, with full awareness of its value and its fragility. Like something precious that requires tending. Like something he has learned through absence, through the specific experience of being without it, is not guaranteed, is not permanent, is something that can be lost if you do not choose it deliberately every day. That is a profound statement. And it is a statement that could only come from someone who has genuinely reckoned with what it means to be without the thing you love most. Who has sat with that absence, not as a temporary inconvenience but as a real, lived experience of loss, even if the loss was always going to be temporary. Because the thing about temporary loss is that it teaches you something that no amount of theoretical understanding can replicate. It teaches you, in your body, in your gut, what it would feel like if the thing were actually gone. And Jungkook went through that. All the members went through that. And what it did to them, what it did to their relationship with BTS, with each other, with the music, with ARMY, is exactly why BTS 2026 is not going to be the same as anything that came before. Now I want to step back and look at the bigger picture for a moment, because I think what is happening with BTS right now is one of the most genuinely interesting artistic and cultural phenomena that exists in contemporary music. And I mean that not as a fan statement but as a genuine observation about what is actually happening here. Think about what BTS has been. Think about the scale of it. 7 men who began as a relatively small K-pop act from a mid-tier label and became, over a decade, arguably the most globally successful musical act since the Beatles. Not just in terms of numbers, though the numbers are staggering, but in terms of cultural impact. In terms of what they meant to people. In terms of the way they changed what global pop music looks like, who gets to make it, who gets to be at the center of it. They did something genuinely unprecedented. And then they stopped. Or rather, they paused. They pressed pause on the collective and went in 7 different directions for 3 years. And now they are coming back. And what they are coming back as is something none of us have fully seen yet. Because they are coming back as 7 complete, fully formed, individually whole adults who have each had their own private transformation and are now choosing, deliberately and from a place of genuine freedom, to come back together. That is so different from how BTS has existed before. I want you to really understand how different. Before the hiatus, BTS's togetherness was partly chosen and partly just the nature of the situation. They were in it together because that was the structure, because that was the contract, because that was the life they had all signed up for. Even in the moments when their bond was most genuine and most beautiful, and there were many such moments, it was always happening within a structure that did not really offer the alternative. They were BTS because that was what they were. They did not have the experience of being fully something else first and then choosing to come back to BTS. Now they do. Now every single one of them has been something else. Has lived, for a real and significant period of time, as a separate individual with a separate identity and separate artistic voice and separate life. And they are choosing each of them, individually, to come back together. To rebuild. To make BTS again, but this time as a deliberate choice made by 7 adults who know exactly what they are choosing and why. And Jungkook's words in the Vogue interview, "Since I finished my service, I really take care of it," are the most honest and direct expression of that choice that I have seen from any of the members. Because he is not describing a feeling. He is describing an action. He is describing something he does. Every day. He tends to this thing. He protects it. He nurtures it. Not because the structure requires it. Not because there is a contract. But because he has been without it and he knows its value and he has chosen, as a fully formed adult with full knowledge of what he is choosing, to give it his care. I also want to talk about the Calvin Klein collaboration in this context, because I think it is more connected to the BTS story than it might appear on the surface. This collaboration, the 2026 CKJK Capsule Collection, is Jungkook's first major individual fashion collaboration. It generated $3.4 million in media impact value within 48 hours of announcement. It sold out in Japan. It drew massive crowds to Harajuku when Jungkook appeared at the launch event, crowds so large that additional security had to be deployed. And Jungkook was reportedly deeply involved in the creative process of the collection itself. Think about what this tells you. This is not Jungkook being a brand ambassador in the traditional sense, showing up, looking beautiful, lending his face to someone else's vision. This is Jungkook as a creative force in his own right. As someone with enough individual artistic identity and enough creative confidence to co-create something with one of the world's most iconic fashion brands. And that Jungkook, the one who can walk into a Calvin Klein creative process and hold his own, the one whose individual presence can generate millions of dollars in crowds in the streets of Tokyo, is now walking back into BTS. Bringing all of that with him. Adding it to what the other 6 members are bringing back from their own individual journeys. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand what BTS is going to be when 7 people who have each reached that level of individual completeness and confidence come back together? It is going to be unlike anything we have ever seen from them. It is going to be unlike anything we have ever seen from anyone. Because the thing that made BTS extraordinary before, the specific alchemy of 7 particular people in particular combination, is now going to be amplified by the fact that each of those 7 people is more fully, more completely, more confidently themselves than they have ever been. The collective is going to be stronger because the individuals are stronger. And that is not something that happens automatically or easily or often. That is something rare. Something that requires exactly the kind of separation and individual growth and deliberate reunion that BTS has just gone through. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand what BTS is going to be when 7 people who have each reached that level of individual completeness and confidence come back together? It is going to be unlike anything we have ever seen from them. It is going to be unlike anything we have ever seen from anyone. Because the thing that made BTS extraordinary before, the specific alchemy of 7 particular people in particular combination, is now going to be amplified by the fact that each of those 7 people is more fully, more completely, more confidently themselves than they have ever been. The collective is going to be stronger because the individuals are stronger. And that is not something that happens automatically or easily or often. That is something rare. Something that requires exactly the kind of separation and individual growth and deliberate reunion that BTS has just gone through. Let me also address something that I think lives quietly in a lot of ARMY hearts but does not always get said directly, which is the fear. The fear that things would be different. That after 3 years of separation and individual development in military service, the dynamic would have shifted in ways that could not be recovered. That the specific magic of those 7 people together would have dissipated somehow, dissolved in the years of living separate lives. I know this fear. I felt it myself during the hiatus. And I want to address it directly, because I think the Vogue interview, and specifically those 5 words, "I really take care of it," is the most direct and honest answer to that fear that we have received. The fear assumes that the magic of BTS was something that existed independently of the members' choices. Something that happened to them, through them, without requiring their active participation. And maybe in the early years, there was an element of that, the alchemy was so natural and so easy that it did not require tending. It just was. But what Jungkook is describing now is something better than that. He is describing a BTS whose magic is chosen. Cultivated. Actively maintained and protected by 7 people who know exactly what they have and exactly what it would mean to lose it. A BTS that is not just magical by nature but magical by intention. And that, I would argue, is more powerful. More sustainable. More real. The other thing I want to talk about, because it connects directly to everything we have been discussing, is what Jungkook said about hoping ARMY is well. Just those words, "I hope you're all well." And I know it sounds like such a small thing. Such a simple, quiet thing compared to all of the big emotional statements and dramatic revelations we associate with BTS moments. But I want you to sit with the specific quality of that statement, because I think it reveals something important about who Jungkook is now and how that has changed. In earlier years, Jungkook's expressions of love and gratitude toward ARMY were often big. Performed in the sense that everything on stage is performed, not false, not manufactured, but shaped and presented. He would talk about how much ARMY meant to BTS, how they could not exist without ARMY, how ARMY's love was what kept them going. All of that was true and sincere. But it was also large-scale. Abstract. Directed at the collective. "I hope you're all well" is none of those things. It is small. It is specific. It is personal. It is the kind of thing you say to someone you think about individually, not as a mass. It is the kind of message you send to a friend you have been thinking about. And that shift, from the large, collective expression of gratitude to this quiet, personal, direct "I hope you're all well" tells me that Jungkook's relationship with ARMY has deepened and matured in the same way that his relationship with himself has. It is less performed and more felt. Less shaped by expectation and more shaped by genuine, daily, private thought. And this matters for BTS 2026 because the music BTS makes from this place is going to have that same quality. Less shaped. More felt. Less about what a BTS album is supposed to be and more about what 7 complete, whole, genuinely feeling adults actually want to say. And that is the album I am most excited for in the history of music. I genuinely mean that. Because every BTS album has been great. Every BTS album has had moments of genuine brilliance and emotional truth. But every BTS album has also, to some degree, been made within a specific context and a specific set of pressures and a specific understanding of what BTS was and what BTS was supposed to do. This album, the 2026 album, the one they are making now, is going to be made from a completely different place. By people who have been free. Who have lived separately. Who have come back together by choice. Who are making music not because it is their job but because they have chosen, deliberately and with full understanding, to make it together. I also want to briefly talk about what Jungkook's number 6 revelation means in the context of everything we have been discussing. Because for people outside the fandom, it might seem like a cute, fun moment from an interview. Oh, his favorite number is 6, how sweet. But for ARMY, that number carries specific weight. 6 is the number of his members. The 6 people who were there before him, who brought him in, who shaped him, who he has grown up alongside. And by saying 6 is his favorite number, in this context, in this interview, right now, at this moment in their collective story, Jungkook is doing what Jungkook always does, which is say the most important thing in the quietest possible way. He is saying, they are still my favorite thing. After all of it. After the individual growth and the Calvin Klein campaigns and the solo music and the military service and the time apart. After everything that could have shifted that center of gravity, the center of gravity is still the same. It is still them. It is still 6. And that, more than anything else in this interview, more than anything that could be said in any press release or formal announcement, is the clearest possible signal that BTS 2026 is going to be something real. Something that comes from genuine love and genuine choice and genuine commitment. Not a contractual reunion but a chosen one. Not a comeback because the market demands it but a return because 7 people who have been through something together and then been apart and found themselves and found each other again are ready to make something new with everything they have become. So when I say BTS 2026 is not going to be the same as before, I want you to understand that I mean it as the most exciting thing I have ever said about BTS. Not a warning. Not a lament. A promise. A promise that what is coming is going to be larger and truer and more fully realized than anything that came before. Because the people making it are larger and truer and more fully realized than they have ever been. And Jungkook, sitting in that Tokyo room with his creme brulee and his Calvin Klein and his 5 quiet words about really taking care of it, Jungkook already knows this. He figured it out first. And now we know it too. I cannot wait for what is coming. And I am so grateful to be on this journey with all of you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this resonated with you, please leave a comment below. Tell me what you are most looking forward to from BTS 2026. Tell me which part of the Vogue interview hit you the hardest. Tell me if you cried because I absolutely did. Please subscribe if you have not already, turn on your notifications, and join us here where we love BTS deeply and analyze them thoroughly and feel all the feelings together without apology. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay well, and purple you. Purple Heart.